Greetings, I'm Salvador Cordova, and I'm here to interview Carissa Shipman, and she's a professor at Huntington University. Carissa, welcome.
Oh, I'm excited to be interviewed by you about my potential PhD program.
Okay, so we'll get right to it. You have a very compelling story. I've known you for a little bit, and the more I've gotten to know, it's very compelling. So one thing I do know is there's quite a soap opera in how you became a creationist. And I don't mean to demean it or trivialize it. So please share this story about your ex-boyfriend named Craig, and he was a Darwinian evolutionist.
Yeah, so he was very angry at God for taking away his parents, and he fueled his anger and hatred of God with environmental propaganda and Darwinian evolution theory. After I broke up with him, he died of a heroin overdose. I cleaned out his room, and it was a junkie den with drugs, cigarettes, and alcohol bottles everywhere. I found some of his song lyrics that he wrote, and they were very dark. And after that, I knew a spiritual darkness had taken him over, which Darwinian evolution helped feed. So I dated him, and he indoctrinated me with Darwinism, and I was a believer. And then I started studying biology at Temple University. And once I started looking at, molecular biology, DNA, just organelles, cell structure and function, it became obvious to me that there was irreducible complexity within cellular systems. And so then I started to believe in intelligent design. And then from there, I found out that dinosaur DNA had been visualized using fluorescent microscopy. And that really intrigued me because I thought, how could DNA still be around in something that's supposed to be 65 million years old? So then I started to dig deeper into that and came to the realization that, not only DNA, but by other biomolecules like collagen have survived thousands of years. Now, of course, the secular scientists will tell you that it's been millions of years. However, that is much harder to believe than the belief that maybe these biomolecules have survived only thousands of years. So I went from just being being an intelligent design proponent to then becoming a young Earth creationist. So that's been my journey. But I did start out as a Darwinist, and I even tested my I tested my belief by doing a master's in evolutionary biology at the California Academy of Sciences, where I wanted to dive deeper into the methods of evolution to really see how valid they were. And then after I did that, I concluded that molecular phylogenetics and systematics has its limitations, and that most of the phylogenetic trees that are made are hypotheses and are not factual evolutionary relationships between organisms.
Well, I think you shared a little bit about the focus of your research. I think it's somewhat obvious that it's relevant to creationism. So if you could elaborate a little bit more on how the focus of your research is relevant to creationism and how it might help people who are maybe having doubts or would like reassurance that the young earth creationist view is the right view.
So, the focus of my team and I's research is on sequencing ancient DNA from older and older fossils with the goal of successfully sequencing dinosaur DNA. Since dinosaur DNA is only thousands of years old, we should be able to get a sequence. The key is to obtain ancient DNA from a very well preserved fossil from the northern latitudes, such as Siberia or Alaska. So we desire to sequence DNA from fossils across the geologic column to prove the layers were rapidly deposited during the global flood and were not deposited over millions and millions of years. So that's why it's relevant, because we're basically the young Earth creation hypothesis or theory supports the new secular science discovery of dinosaur DNA better than secular science does, because we know the half-life of DNA is only about 521 years. However, at this point, we're not even sure, how long DNA can really survive. That's still a huge research question that needs to be answered. However, it's been visualized in the nuclei of osteocytes and chondrocytes of dinosaurs. So, and many scientists and paleobiologists at this point are in support of this finding. There is still, some paleontologists and others who aren't in support of it, but there are a lot that are still. So I know that the Chinese Academy of Sciences is also diving deeper into possibly trying to sequence dinosaur DNA as well, and they are in Beijing.
That's exciting. How long have you been working on this research?
So I've been conducting background research since fall 2021, and I started with Dr. Steve Taylor and then Dr. Andrew Fabich, and the hope was, for me to obtain a PhD from the University of Liverpool. So that was the hope back then. It is still the hope. We've just been trying to raise significant resources for my international tuition at the University of Liverpool.
If you could share some of the people you're working with, what we would call collaborators, and now you don't have to obviously disclose anyone that whose name shouldn't be disclosed, but if you could share that, that'd be great.
So it started out with Dr. Steve Taylor, and he was the PhD advisor for Dr. Brian Thomas, who now works at the Institute for Creation Research. Then Dr. Andrew Fabich joined the research group. He used to be a professor of microbiology at Truett McConnell University. Now we have Dr. Joe DeWeese, who is a professor of biochemistry at Freed Hardeman University. And finally, Dr. Joel Brown, he's the director of the Creation Research Society. He is also a main collaborator. So those four individuals, I would say, are my four main collaborators. However, Bob Jones University is also interested in sequencing dinosaur DNA, in addition to the Creation Evidence Museum of Texas, which has the Dinosaur Discovery Lab.
That's exciting. And Joe DeWeese is also an adjunct professor at the Vanderbilt School of Medicine. So that's a prestigious appointment. Joel Brown got his PhD, I believe, from Cornell. So you're definitely in good company. And Steve Taylor has just a stellar reputation in his field. So you've got quite a team that you're working with. So I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, what are, I just had to put the plug in there, especially since I've worked with Joe DeWeese and we published at Oxford University Press. That had to be one of my two biggest publications ever. If you could share, this is your chance to brag a little bit. Tell me what are some of your greatest academic accomplishments or any other accomplishments for that matter.
I would say participating in 2 National Science Foundation funded marine science expeditions in the Philippines where many new marine species were discovered was one of my greatest accomplishments. We got a lot of media coverage. The National Geographic was interested in the expedition that was actually led by my graduate advisor, Dr. Terry Gosliner. He's a well-known marine biologist at the California Academy of Sciences. I have identified and named several new sea slug species using genetics, morphology, and ecology. And my publication on the diversity of the Dotidae sea slug family using genetics was a first for this group. So nobody else ever attempted to study this group and their DNA. Before I came along, it was all just morphology and ecology, and no one had done any genetics work on them.
That's
So,
yeah,
yeah.
that's outstanding. How long were you in the Philippines?
I lived in the Philippines for off and on, like, because I went back and forth, I think about 4 times. So in total, I would say about a total of 2 years. I also worked for Project Seahorse, which was part of the Zoological Society of London, and did some conservation work with Project Seahorse, which is in the Visayas part of the Philippines. So I was doing marine fish surveys and also seahorse surveys, coral reef surveys to basically determine the health of the marine ecosystems. I also had been in those 2 expeditions. I also did volunteer work, and I also did research in marine natural products, which is looking for new chemicals from marine organisms for drug discovery purposes.
That's fabulous. Now, I'm from the Philippines, and you've actually spent more time in the Philippines than I have by far. So, just a little anecdote there. I'm going to ask a pointed question. Why should David Reeves Ministries fund your PhD?
Well, this project has been of interest to many creationists before I came along, including individuals like Dr. John Sanford, and when successful, will provide additional evidence to support the young age of the Earth. David Reeves Ministries can benefit from this endeavor through the dissemination of books, homeschool curricula, podcasts, museum exhibits, lectures, etc. And it is a very charismatic project, which will draw the attention of believers and non-believers and get them thinking about the validity of the Darwinian paradigm.
Who else is interested in funding, supporting, and possibly collaborating in this research?
The Creation Research Society and Huntington University. So I am currently an assistant professor at Huntington University, and Huntington is able to provide $20,000 towards a terminal degree. Um, and that's with the assumption that I stay here. But if I do get hired for the permanent position, which is looking very, very positive right now, then once I get hired for the permanent position, then I can apply for this $20,000, and it can be used towards a terminal degree of my choice. And that would include the University of Liverpool. My boss, who is the vice president for academic affairs, is aware of my interest in pursuing a doctorate at the University of Liverpool, and he's very excited about it and in full support of it. And he also encouraged me to apply for the permanent position here. So I would say overall things are going really well here at the university. I'm building relationships with the students. The department chair of biology and I we get along really well, and the division chair and I also get along really well. So they can help me get my terminal degree. And then the CRS is planning to raise funds just like they did for the RATE project. And this project will contribute to developing the field of ancient DNA within creation science, which has not been a major focus until now. So, Dr. Joel Brown really wants to develop ancient DNA research within the creation science paradigm.
Well, this hits home because I I'm also a researcher myself and fighting for opportunities to get research and funding. So in some sense, we are competitors, but I prayed to God. I said, I'm going to do everything I can to help my colleague here, Carissa. Also, I learned an awful lot. I mean, we've known each other through the Creation Research Society, and just in this discussion, just like there's a lot I didn't know about all of your work. I kind of know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, and I might offer my commentary briefly. Are there many opportunities for scientists to pursue graduate research in creation science, and it's fully funded like as in secular universities? My answer would be no, but maybe you could share your perspective.
So, exactly, the answer is no. There are few opportunities for graduate science research in creation, and they are not fully funded like secular science PhDs. So, really, from the get go, creation science is already at a severe disadvantage in its ability to progress significantly because it doesn't have enough graduate students doing the brunt of the legwork like secular science does. So that explains why, in many respects, we're not, we're kind of behind. And so I really, I know that other people know about this and they've complained about it, but doesn't seem like a whole lot's really being done about it. So I think this is an opportunity for David Reeves to actually do something about it, and make a difference because it's really a huge problem in creation science. There just isn't enough opportunity for young people to do rigorous lab work because lab work is very expensive. So, you know, I gave up secular science because of my convictions, and I didn't really want to pretend. I didn't want to pretend to be a Darwinist so that I could fit in with my colleagues and not get persecuted. The reason I had to do that was because I was directly in a field of biodiversity research, which is heavily inundated in Darwinian philosophy. Unlike the biomedical sciences, or applied sciences, which tend to be less inundated and less saturated with Darwinism. So I chose a career path that was heavily inundated in Darwinian philosophy, but then decided that I just didn't want to pretend anymore. And so that's why I want to do hardcore, rigorous research, but I want to do it with scientists who have the same beliefs as me and are also really good scientists. So I've had an immense struggle because of this, because I have been unwilling to settle for a secular science PhD that is funded by secular money. You might think that that's strange, but it's really what I felt the Lord was leading me to do.
Yeah.
So, University of Liverpool is a top-notch secular research university where part-time research only, where a part-time PhD can be pursued. And so this is ideal for my situation because I'm already a full-time faculty member at Huntington. So I need a part-time opportunity and I need a research-only opportunity that gets me the PhD. In addition, I want to work with a young earth scientist. So that's why this is the best opportunity for me. Dr. Steve Taylor is a young earth creationist,
Wow.
and as
I
I
did
said
not know.
earlier, he was the PhD advisor of Dr. Brian Thomas, who now works at the Institute for Creation Research.
That's heartening to hear. I have a couple more questions. What are your goals for the research? I think you've already shared that, but if you wanted to add anything more to some of the things you've already shared, that'd be great.
Yeah, so my goal is to collaborate with many young Earth creation institutions and the University of Liverpool to publish one or multiple ancient DNA manuscripts in mainstream science journals. Thankfully, my collaborator, Dr. Joe DeWeese, has been successfully published in several journals for his work on the molecular machine DNA topoisomerase. So, in a sense, this dream is within reach for me and our other team members. As the principal PhD student in this project, one of my main responsibilities would be to learn the nanopore sequencing methods, analyze the sequence data, and write up the results for publication.
That sounds really exciting. Um, Maybe we'll close this out. Do you have anything else on your heart that you'd really like to share? Just go ahead and share it. And by the way, thank you for sharing all this. I learned a lot about your work that I was totally not aware of. I mean, we've collaborated in other things, and there's just all these facets to your your professional accomplishments that I was not aware of.
Well, I really feel I would say my strongest desire is for um, there to be more opportunities for young people in creation science where they can do rigorous scientific research and that they could also get fully funded for their projects just like people in secular science do. They have those opportunities, and in creation science there just isn't as many opportunities, and it's really one of the reasons that creationism is not progressing as fast as it could. It doesn't have the money or the resources that secular science does because secular science is funded by the US government predominantly. And it's very sad that churches haven't really shown much interest in creation science, and haven't really made it a priority. They've made other things like abortion a priority, so on and so forth, but they really haven't made much of a priority out of trying to advance the young Earth worldview and to try to validate it. Many churches have actually caved, and some even believe in theistic evolution now. And so they've basically decided to go along with mainstream science versus, the young Earth worldview. And so it's just, and I think a lot of people get led astray from their faith because they don't have access to, as much creation science uh, information as, people get from, the secular sciences. The secular sciences are propagated much more prolifically than creation sciences. And so people just don't know what's out there. They don't understand what is available. They don't know, what science or evidence supports a young Earth. Instead, they just laugh at it. So it's really sad. And I just really want creation science to be a lot more successful than it has been. And I'm a young person, and I just know that I came out of the secular sciences, and there was just so much more opportunity there than there is in creation. And it's just really sad because creation is inspiring.
Oh,
Darwinian evolution is not inspiring. It's actually very uninspiring and in many ways toxic because, like I said, my ex-boyfriend succumbed to, you know, belief in, there not being, heaven or hell. He didn't he basically just didn't care about anything really, and it was because he was an atheist. And it was just really sad to see how his spirit was so void. And but creationism inspires and it gives hope, and that's why it really should be more successful so that it can give people more hope. So that's my view on it, and some people can disagree with me, but I know that there's a huge problem there, and I think it needs to change.
Well, I definitely share your uh, sentiments there, and we could probably talk for very long. I know about numerous topics, but I'd like to thank everyone who's tuning in to this interview, and I'd like to thank Carissa for really opening her heart about her work and even some highly personal things. So glory and honor to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and thank you all for joining this discussion. Until I see you all again, take care and God bless you.